Initially, we were working on water quality in Asia, and we were going to Nepal and Bangladesh and talking to people about what bothers them in their water. And one thing that came up again and again was the textile industry and the enormous amount of chemicals going into water from there. At that point, we decided there has to be a better way that's closer to nature, and using our synthetic biology, we engineered this way of dyeing, where we use biologically driven processes guided by nature. Our process starts with nature. We find a pigment that already exists, let's say from an insect, and using nature, we take that pigment out of its context and apply it to a microorganism, which can then start producing it very efficiently. Using this, we can then take a biologically driven process, the Colorifix technology, and transfer that pigment efficiently from the organism to the fabric. And this means that we use a lot less chemicals, water, and energy.
One of the things that we are able to do now is to effectively take any process, or in our case, a pathway that will make color, from almost anything in nature and put it into our process, our microbe, and make that color. The way we leverage the biology is actually not anything to do with the manipulation of the organism per se, but it actually comes from simply realizing that mildew and mold will stain material.
The feedstocks that are used in our process are found in fields around the world. The molasses that are used in the process are derived from sugar beet crops that are found in many, many countries. And certainly most of the countries in the world that are involved in dyeing are also major sugar producers as well. In the fashion industry, people often talk about being inspired by nature. But with Colorifix, we can actually replicate nature. We can take the sections of DNA, that language from DNA, the chapter of DNA, and put that into the organism. So we're actually recreating those pigments as nature is doing at the moment.
The breakthrough moment for the Colorifix technology happened once we managed to transfer the dye efficiently from the organism.
The process does two things. It combines both the production of the dye and the deposition and fixation of the dye into a single step. So we can access this by using biology to produce the dye, so we can get microbes to make the dye. And we can also use those same microbes to infiltrate the fabric and deposit and fix the fabric with the dye. Our organism's self-replicating, so we can go from basically a couple of organisms to, hundreds and thousands of millions of organisms.
When we lyse, when we kill the organisms to release the color, they're also releasing the salts and metals that are used in the fixing process. So with Colorifix, we don't need to use mordanting agents, we don't need to use those chromates, etc., because the organisms themselves harvest those chemicals for us.
I think that the consumer demands a level of transparency and more ethical business, and I decided to work with Colorifix because, again, it's a technology that's a real game changer. I mean, the process in which they manage and use dyeing is just extraordinary. They're finding new ways to look at the dyeing process without less harmful chemicals and toxins. But I guess the biggest achievement that they have is using 10 times less water in the process of dyeing. And for me, that's, that can change the industry, that can help the planet that we work on and live on. And, I just find it incredibly exciting.